So this is advice that I wouldn't normally share for the simple fact that whenever you give this type of advice, you usually get the comments either here on YouTube or in person where you have no idea what you're talking about, or of course it makes sense to buy a house versus renting. Why would you even ever tell someone or give someone that advice? That absolutely makes no sense. But look, before you jump down to the comments and you start judging a video by its cover, or in this case, a thumbnail, I want to share with you a couple reasons why I don't think it would be really a move in your best interest to purchase a home either in 2020, 2021, 2022, or beyond, whenever you're watching this. And for the most part, every single reason that I'm about to give you in this video is going to be what I would call year-round reasons of why you shouldn't even consider buying a house. So whether you're thinking of buying a house in December, or if you are thinking of buying a house in June, or if you're thinking of buying a house, let's say in October, then consider this a fair warning before you decide to put that pen on that paper, also known as the HUD, for the closing statement that lets you know you've purchased a home. So let's go ahead and jump right into the first reason, and that's this. Interest deductions on a mortgage should never be a reason why you want to purchase a home. I mean, let's really think about this. Yes, 100% interest that you pay for your, let's say, on rent, or 100% of the payment that you pay toward rent, rather, is going to be 100% interest. We get that. And that's usually the argument where people say, well, it makes more sense to buy versus renting because you're paying someone else's mortgage. I get it. And we're going to deal with that here in just a second. But let's first talk about this interest rates and these deductions that so many people think that it makes sense of why they should even purchase. If you're buying with the sole purpose of thinking that purchasing, you're going to be saving a lot of money with that deduction, well, let's go ahead and run the numbers on that. Let's say that you're buying a $200,000 house at a 4% interest rate. Now, obviously, the interest rates are a lot lower, but let's just go ahead and work with that number because it's kind of what I have off the top of my head. You're going to be paying right around or just over $5,000 a year in interest rate for the first, I'd say, 4 to 6 years before that interest payment really starts to come down and you start paying more toward your principal. And again, this is assuming you have a 30-year mortgage. You may want to run the numbers if you have a 15-year mortgage. So for the 30-year mortgage, you're going to be paying right around $5,000. Assuming you're in the 25% tax bracket, that means that you're going to be saving right around, give or take, I'd say $1,300 to right around $1,500 on that, let's say, on those interest payments. But there's still right around $3,500, $4,000, give or take, that you are still paying on the back end toward interest rates. So if, let's say, you decided to stay in that property for right around 20 to 25 years, you'd be paying upwards of around $135,000 on interest alone, not including principal. That's just interest. So if you're thinking about buying a home just because you're going to be saving some money on a deduction, well, when you start to think about it like that and you actually start working the numbers, well, it tells a completely different story. But let's move on to the next one, and that's one that's really important to me, and that's opportunity costs. Now, a few examples of opportunity costs, if you're not aware of it, it's, let's say you wanted to start a business, or let's say that you wanted to invest that capital elsewhere. And when I say capital, I'm referring to the down payment of your property and the closing costs, because a lot of people have this, and I wouldn't say misconception, but the way that people run numbers, at least that I've seen in all the years that I've been selling real estate and just working with clients, people want to know two things. One, how much do I qualify for? And two, how much is my monthly mortgage going to be? And then on top of that, how they usually run the numbers, and I guess it's common sense because it's more so how we look at it from a practical standpoint, is, okay, I'm paying $1,500 in rent, and then with my mortgage, I'm only going to be paying around $1,450 out the door. And so when you look at it like that, you say, okay, that makes sense of why I would purchase a home. But if you look at it how I'm about to share with you right now, well, you may want to reconsider that entire way of thinking. Here's why. Let's say that it's not just about the $1,400 or the $50 difference that you're going to be saving every month when you decide to buy versus rent. Again, rental to mortgage comparison. Let's say that there's a business that you wanted to start and the total down payment plus the closing cost was right around $25,000. You could possibly throw that $25,000 into your business to maybe purchase equipment, to maybe bring on some new technology, to maybe bring on some new systems, maybe to get it off the ground, maybe to buy some websites, maybe to print out shirts, whatever your business is, or if it requires you to maybe take a certain type of, I would say, course, or maybe go into a certain type of academy where you need a certain certification, maybe you can use it toward that. Or if, let's say, you wanted to invest it into the stock market, if you wanted to pick an ETF or an index fund and just leave it in there year over year, again, statistically speaking, over I'd say the last 30, 40 years, well, that index has been matching the market for right around a 7% return. Again, that's an S&P 500. If you are looking to go with either a Vanguard or a Fidelity or even a Charles Schwab, you always want to do your research, because you never know what other companies or what other, I would say, brokerage accounts, what their returns may be. So I'm just speaking off of the ones that I've researched and that I've watched. So you're getting a 7% return on the front end versus having $25,000, $30,000 locked in to a home where, well, quite frankly, you may not ever see the equity of that home. And in addition to not buying stocks or investing in your business or buying some income producing properties, well, you may also miss out on what's known as loss deductions. And loss deductions don't apply to primary residences. Here's what I mean by that. Let's say that right now you were to sell a rental property and you took a $30,000, $40,000 loss on it after repairs, after maybe tenants moved out, you decided to sell it. Well, guess what? You're able to deduct those losses when you go to file your taxes. Same thing goes if you, let's say, sell some stocks, and those stocks, maybe you bought it at $30 and then you had to sell it at $25. That's a $5 loss. Plus how many stocks you purchased, you're able to use that as a loss deduction. What with the primary residence, unfortunately, if let's say you bought it and on year 4 you decided to sell it, but it was a $10,000 loss, well, unfortunately, there are no deductions for that type or for those type of cases, because again, it's considered a primary residence. And now, unless you're used to crunching numbers and putting pen to paper, then the second to last reason may be one that you may want to take a seat for, and that's this. Owning a home is more than just the mortgage payment that's attached to the monthly expenses. You see, you have insurance. You have any repairs. So let's say a roof, there's a roof leak. Let's say a toilet clogs up, or maybe the AC isn't working. Well, guess what? There's no landlord to call. So now that falls on top of you. On top of insurance, maybe you have some warranties that you have to pay. Maybe there's a homeowner association. And in addition to that, you now have to pay taxes. And this is where it gets tricky. And this is why you want to be very careful in what time of the year you're buying and if it's actually a good time for you to purchase in your specific market. And that's this. Let's say you bought a home at a $500,000 purchase price. The market takes a swing the following 4, 5, 6 months. Well, guess what happens? You now have property taxes at the $500,000, while everyone else is, let's say, if the market took a big swing, the properties are now worth $400,000, $350,000. Now, that's a bit aggressive. That's more of a right around a 30%, what I would call correction, or really a mini crash, or I would call it really more of a bigger correction. I wouldn't really say mini crash, because I would say a crash is more around 40 to 50% of a, let's say, market price correction. You now have to pay taxes on that $500,000 threshold versus everyone else paying it right down here at $350,000, $400,000. Which brings us into the final reason of why you shouldn't buy a home, and that's, well, flexibility. Let's say that the market does take a little spill in your area and now you are having to hold this property as your primary residence. Well, there's just a couple things for you. Let's say that there's a career change and you want to move to another city or another state. Well, you can't, because you're underwater with your home, so now you can't sell it unless it's a short sale. So let's say you bought it for $500 and now it's worth $450. You've only been living in it for 2 years. Well, you could rent it out, but you can't, because, well, that also causes rent rates to go down. So now instead of, let's say, rent being $2,000, now rent is around $1,500. But guess what? Your mortgage is closer to $1,900, which means you're gonna have to come out of pocket $400 every month. And we know that the average homeowner lives in their home for right around 7 to more so 8 years. So unless you plan on living in your property for, I would say, an extended period of time, 8, 9, 10 years, then I wouldn't say that anything that I just mentioned might affect you. But if you're maybe thinking of buying a property, living in it for the next maybe 3 to 5 years, then again, you may want to really take a look at these numbers replay the video, everything that I mentioned, and then again, sit down with your pen, with your paper, and see if this is maybe a move that you want to make right now, or if it makes more sense for you to maybe hold off and continue to watch the market. Now look, I would never steer anyone away from buying a home. But when it comes to purchasing a home, understand that this is going to be one of the biggest, if not the biggest purchase that you'll make in your entire life. And if you're just buying a home for the sake of because interest rates are low, or if you're just buying a home because your best friend bought a home, or if you're buying a home because maybe there's a little bit of fear in the market, and if you're wondering if prices are going to go up, if you're only buying for those reasons, then I would really consider my reasoning of why I'm even looking to get into the housing market. But if, let's say, you have to move, or there's a career change, or let's say that you've pretty much dotted all of your I's, crossed all of your T's, you know that these numbers make sense to you, you're ready, and you understand that interest rate deductions isn't a deal breaker for you. You understand that even if the market takes a minor spill, I'm in this thing for the long run, 10, 15, 20 plus years. This is my forever home. Then at that point, absolutely pull the plug and jump in cold turkey. But if not, again, think about the pros and cons of why you are even looking to buy a home in this specific time, because we are going to see quite a bit of volatility in the next couple of months. Once again, if you enjoyed this content, don't forget to hit the subscribe button down below and join the official community. Tap that like button if you found value in this content, because it lets YouTube know this is information worth sharing with more people. And don't forget that anytime we're not posting on here, we're posting on our second channel, the Insight with Irv Show, which is more of a podcast style based channel. And I also want to thank our sponsors over at Amazon's Audible, where they've made it super easy and convenient for you to not only enjoy a free month, but enjoy a free book with our good friends over at Amazon's Audible by hitting the link down in the description, right where you can find the link right under that to our amazing YouTube course that shows you how to build more revenue off of your YouTube platform apart from getting paid off of YouTube, helps you with sponsorship deals, helps you get your brand out there, as well as drive more traffic into your videos and grow your audience the right way. So if you find value in that, then make sure to check that link also as well down below alongside with the coupon code. Once again, my name is Irvin Pena, also known as Herb Official. Until next time, everyone, we'll see ya.